Welcome, everybody, to Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick. I'm Jersey Rick, and this is my co-host, Emily.
Welcome back, everyone.
This is episode number 29. We are talking about the concept of adaptive challenges. And Emily and I, in our podcast, we talk about everything that is related to leadership, and we do it from a biblical worldview. And also, we do not endorse, support, or talk about failed woke philosophies. So, Emily, once again, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, before we dive in, even though it's called Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick, you do not have to be a firefighter to tune
Yes.
in. I certainly am not. It's just called that, as we've discussed in previous episodes, that when you were a battalion chief, you would travel to the stations on your shift and just sit down with the guys and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So, hence the title Firehouse Talks. So, today's episode is called The Concept of Adaptive Challenges. So let's talk about this idea and where did it come from?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I do that, thank you for mentioning that you don't have to be a firefighter just to listen to this podcast because our topics cover a wide range
Yeah.
of occupations and even, within your families and organizations.
Very practical day-to-day living.
That's what our target is. Yes, is we want to be practical in what we talk about and what we address. And if you've listened to our podcast, you'll have seen a habit that we talk about our experiences, not
Mhm.
just academic theory, or we provide examples of other people's experiences as well. So, with that being said, the background of this came out of my attendance at the Executive Fire Officer program at the National Fire Academy. I started that program in 2009. I went back to Emmitsburg, Maryland each year for
Mhm.
2 weeks, and I really enjoyed it, really loved it. The program has been modified somewhat since I went, but I was there for 4 years in a row. And that first year course was called Executive Development. Second year was Community Risk Reduction. Third year was a mouthful. Executive Analysis of Fire Service Operations in Emergency Management. Hey, for a guy who spent 37 years in the fire service on the operational side of things, I really enjoyed that class quite a bit. And then the fourth year was called Executive Leadership. So I loved it. I loved being on the campus there in Emmitsburg. Hey, and you know what? Uh, it was a very short hop, skip, and a jump up the road to Gettysburg,
Yeah.
which, folks, those of you who've listened to the podcast in the past, you know that I love studying the Gettysburg campaign.
Could say it's probably your happy place there.
I'd say, yeah, Gettysburg. Yeah,
One of
two
your happy
places, my
places.
happy place. Gettysburg, love it there. Love just walking the battlefield. And the other one is where we go to an undisclosed location in North Carolina that we love. Why is it
Mhm.
undisclosed, Rick? Because we don't want other people coming there.
Mhm.
That's why, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So prior to year one of the Executive Fire Officer program, we had a reading assignment. And that book is called Leadership on the Line, Staying Alive Through the Dangers of Leading. And the two authors are Ronald A. Heifetz and Marty Linsky. That book served as the foundation for our discussions for the next 4 years, but certainly for years let me try that again, years 1 through 3. Our reading assignment for year 4 built on that in another book that Heifetz and Linsky wrote. They co-authored with another gentleman named Alexander Grashow, and that book is called The Practice of Adaptive Leadership. Two fantastic books. The concept that I learned about adaptive challenges really helped me out in not only my personal life but my professional life and gaining an understanding of how to address issues from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, so before addressing adaptive challenges, let's take a look at the technical problems and what are they?
Yes, and Heifetz and Linsky, they differentiated between the two. Adaptive challenge any technical problem. Now, although a technical problem can be extremely frustrating at times, let's say the laptop that we're using here quits working, there's somebody, someplace who is a person in authority I could take my laptop to, and they have the know-how, they can fix it. There's standards, there's procedures, there's manuals, they've got the knowledge, the skills, the ability to be able to fix the thing. It's like, okay, the hard drive crashed, Rick. It's going to cost X amount of money to put a new one in, or maybe you should just go buy a new laptop. Those are technical problems.
Mm.
And we face those every day. Go turn over the car, key, it doesn't start. Hey, that's a technical problem right there.
Yeah. So, what is an adaptive challenge?
Now, I'm going to read a quote from Heifetz and Linsky's book. They say, quote, there is a whole host of problems that are not amenable to authoritative expertise or standard operating procedures. They cannot be solved by someone who provides answers on high. We call these adaptive challenges because they require experiments, new discoveries, and adjustments from numerous places in the organization or community. Without learning new ways, changing attitudes, values, and behaviors, people cannot make the adaptive leap necessary to thrive in the new environment. The sustainability of change depends on having the people with a problem internalize the change itself.
So now, what is an example of an adaptive challenge?
Yeah, I mauled over this. There's a good number of examples, and as we are recording this here at the beginning of February, certainly, we have seen a change in the administration. Hallelujah
Woohoo!
for that.
Mm-hmm.
But with that comes a number of adaptive challenges, a number of changes that have come down the pike, changes that even people who are supportive of them still have to
Adapt.
adjust. Yes, adjust and adapt to those changes. Then, of course, we got the whiners that are out there, and yeah, I don't want to waste my time talking about them. But one example that I will talk about of an adaptive challenge exists right here in our community
Mhm.
within the fire department. And folks, there's the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority, and it consists of two entities. The Loveland Fire Department with the city of Loveland, and then the Loveland Rural Fire Protection Association. And that arrangement between the city and the rural has existed since 1947. In 2012, we became a fire authority. It's just a different form of governance. Operationally, nothing changed. We still did business the way that we did, in 2011. However, there's been an effort over the past couple of years to move to a district. And then that would take both entities and combine them together to where they are not connected to certain departments in the city of Loveland, such as finance. That's an adaptive challenge because from a citizen's standpoint, that means that there could be a mill levy increase. That's taxes. And in
Mm.
our community, typically people don't like tax increases
Mhm.
and they resist that. Operationally, makes sense to do this. Administratively, it makes sense to do this. But from that standpoint, even other government officials that within the city of Loveland, say, well, wait a minute, we've got to change, we've got a change coming down the pike here, and so people need to adapt and adjust to these type of changes.
Yeah.
And then possibly even within the organization itself, there could be people that say, I don't like this change that's coming down the road here, or even people who have retired and been away from it now for several years may say, no, no, we don't need this, and it starts dealing with the emotions. And that's the big thing with an adaptive challenge is you dealing with issues that strike at people's emotions.
Mm.
And I mentioned, the aspect of taxes. Now, not only with the taxes, but how everything comes together, because you just don't sit down in a meeting and say, okay, well, we're going to become a district. No, no, no. It actually needs to go to a vote. Has to go to a vote of the people, and all the legalities that are associated with this. So that's where the technical problems now start to come into play.
Yeah. So this example really illustrates that many times technical problems are embedded into adaptive challenges.
Yeah, yeah, yep, you're right.
So problems then can arise when we fail to recognize adaptive challenges.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Emily. And we, as human beings, as I have observed human behavior over the years, we want to compartmentalize things. We want to make things black and white.
Hmm.
People struggle functioning in areas of gray. And even as I brought this concept back to my shift and was teaching this to my captains and the lieutenants on the shift, I saw that cropping up. It's like, well, this is black and white. This is an adaptive challenge. This is a technical problem over here. Well, they get embedded, just like the example I gave here of forming a fire district. However, you know, people often they want to apply a technical fix to an adaptive challenge. The example that I have used, over the years with this is you go out to a restaurant and you hope to have a quiet meal, and somebody comes in with the screaming kids and they're sitting behind you.
Yeah.
And what happens? You got a couple parents back there that don't have any backbone, and there's no discipline in the kids. Why? Because there ain't no discipline in the parents to begin with. Yeah, and you start hearing, now, if you don't settle down, you're not going to get any dessert. Yeah, we're going to fix this. Or the other one that I've heard too is, don't ever let me hear you say that again.
Mm.
Right. It's like, okay, hey, that's the magic bullet, right? Yeah, that problem goes away. Don't you ever let me hear you say that again. Don't you ever do that again. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like fixing the laptop that's broken, folks. You know, you're trying to take a adaptive behavioral emotional issue
Hmm.
and apply a technical fix to it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. It just forces the issue down. I challenge anybody who's listening to this thing, think about those times where you maybe even said it yourself. Maybe you've been told this, or you've heard somebody say those words. Don't ever talk to me about that again. Don't ever act like that again. Don't ever say that again. And yeah, take an honest look at that and see how often that works.
Yeah.
Our society is just such a quick fix. Hey, I'm gonna pull up to the drive-through at In and Out, and order a burger and fries and a milkshake. Done. You pull out and you go eat it.
Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't work that way.
yeah, it doesn't work that way. And I'll show this book here. It's called The War for Ukraine: Strategy and Adaptation Under Fire. And I just finished this book written by Mick Ryan. It's published by the Naval Institute Press. I love studying these things, but I also look for the leadership lessons that are embedded, I'll use that word,
Hmm.
embedded in this book right here. And it's about, what the Russians and the Ukrainians are doing. And overall, it's a pretty good book. But there's a quote here that I want to read. Now, this is in the context of military, but we're going to make the application to our civilian world. Quote, creativity, innovation, and tolerance of failure are important components of a successful adaptive military institution. It demands good leadership, experimentation, and the humility to learn lessons from the mistakes and successes of others. So you could take out the word military and place your organization, your situation in this. These things require good leadership, strong leadership, leaders who recognize what these challenges are, and leaders who are going to step up and address them, not shut the things down, but have the courage to address it. Experimentation. Well, what does that mean? Heifetz and Linsky talk about that in their book. Is sometimes, it's just like, okay, we've got our plan A and our plan
Yeah.
B, and we're going to move forward with this, and we're going to see if it works. One of our guys here at Level and Fire several years ago said, all too often, our plan B is just working harder at plan A. So that's where the experimentation comes in. Humility to learn the lessons.
Hmm.
you know, so many times I just started reading another book called Combat in the Sky. It's about the air war over North and South Vietnam.
Hmm.
And it's the longest air war in history.
Wow.
And this book is written from the other side. It's written by a pilot who was flying for the North Vietnamese.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, it's going to be an interesting book. And already the first several pages that I've gotten into, he addresses this issue of learning from our failures. You know, a tolerance for failure is what Ryan has written here. Creativity, innovation, and a tolerance of failure. From that aspect of creativity and innovation is, yeah, yeah, hey folks, do you have people in your organization that have good ideas, but they might be at the lower ranks or they might be junior, and you tell them to be quiet? They haven't earned the right yet to speak up. I believe there's a lot of good ideas in organizations, not only in our country, but throughout the world, where ideas are suppressed by idiot bosses who want to shut those people
Mm.
up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at, Emily, with
Yeah.
adaptive challenges and those technical problems.
So we want to bring it back to our listeners. What about you?
Yes.
What adaptive challenges are you facing, but have identified them as a technical problem? What issues are you facing because of this? And now that you know the difference between technical problems and adaptive challenges, what steps are you going to take to address both?
Ha! What steps are you going to take? That comes down to a word called action.
Mm-hmm.
you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta take action. You're listening to this, and if you say, yeah, you know what, I am facing some adaptive challenges in my life. But I don't know if Heifetz and Linsky's book, Leadership on the Line, is still in print. So you'd probably have to, track it down on eBay or one of those places like that. But I do recommend reading that book.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at these things where it's hitting people's heartstrings, it's hitting people's emotions, you're getting pushback because of something big that is coming down the pike, and you're saying, what is going on here? You know, that's an adaptive challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So, Emily, that's it for this episode where we talked about the concept of adaptive challenges. And hey, folks, I want to throw it out there. I'd love to continue this conversation beyond this point right here, and I'll give you some information on how we can do that here in a moment. So
Yeah.
anything else that you'd like to add, Emily, before we close this out?
No, I think that's a good intro on the concept of adaptive challenges and yeah, let people know how they can reach you to talk about this more in depth.
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about here, people. That we've just really scratched the surface
Yeah.
on this. But say, if you like this episode, you found it useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Visit my website, fireofficerleadershipacademy.com. I have courses that I can teach on adaptive challenges and technical problems. I could come in and I can do a mastermind, or otherwise we also call it, group coaching on this, where I can work with your organization, a small group of leaders from your organization, and we can address these issues. Also, while you're on my website, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner that four-letter word, blog. I post my weekly leadership blog on Monday mornings, and it also gets posted on my LinkedIn profile on Wednesday mornings. So that's it for now.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Blog.